10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 479. Hey everybody, welcome back. Episode 479 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. So we're going to continue our series on supercharging your scale routines, but really, at the end of the day, what we are doing is we're using scale practice to facilitate rhythmic practice, or the other way around. I love the way that the stuff that I'm talking about this month works with scales, and it's just a very easy application of this stuff, something that you're probably working on already. But I do want everybody that's listening to this to understand that this rhythmic work that we're doing is far bigger than just scale practice. And one thing that I would like y'all to do is to sort of figure out how to get this into other areas of your practicing. You could do it with improvisation. You can do it with so many different things, right? So I want you to be thinking about that as we go through. I'm using scales as a vehicle because it's very easy to present, and it's sort of easy for you to get started, and it gives us some context. But just know that the stuff that I'm presenting to you rhythmically can be used in a ton of different situations. Okay, so last week we talked about grouping our scale practice in 3/4. So we're using a 4/4 base of operations here, 4/4 time signature, but we're figuring out different ways that we can basically put 3/4. And if you haven't listened to that first episode, that's a great place to start because I am going to be expanding upon that this week. So go back and check out episode 478 if you haven't already. It'll give you much better context for what we're going to talk about this week. Okay, so let's bring back in our 4/4 swing drum beat, and let's quickly review what we talked about last week. So last week we were talking about major scales. I think I'm going to use melodic minor this week to present these ideas to you, just to give a little bit of a different sound and show you that it's possible to do this stuff with any form of scale. So what we talked about last week was taking a basic, let's say 3/4 rhythm, like 3 quarter notes, and using groupings and accents to give us the impression of 3/4. So if I were going to do that with a D melodic minor scale, and we were going to just use quarter notes, it would sound like this. So you hear that, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, all while we're hearing 4/4 happening behind us. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that same concept of doing 3/4 over 4/4, but we're going to combine it with another time signature, which is 2/4, okay? And this one's really interesting because it does a couple of things that we'll go over. The first one is that now we're further displacing things and coming up with really interesting accents on certain beats, all in and around the 4/4, but it's getting a little bit messed up, for lack of a better term. So we would be thinking like this: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now, essentially what we're doing is we're superimposing 5/4 over the 4/4. But I think if you think about it in 5, it's sort of too long for you to hear the groupings. So I just prefer to think about it, for now at least, as a bar of 3 and a bar of 2. So if we think about it in 4/4 in this context, we're thinking this: 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So we're just repeating that pattern over and over again of the 3 followed by the 2. Now, if we think about applying this to scales, something interesting happens to our groupings, right? So if we think about, we're going to start each grouping on the next successive note in the scale, we get something really interesting that happens. We get a group of 3 notes followed by a group of 2 notes. And that is so valuable. So on top of the rhythmic aspect of this, you're also getting these really interesting groupings of notes. A grouping of 3 successive notes followed by a grouping of 2 successive notes. So if we're going to start each grouping on the next note up in the scale, and we're using D melodic minor, it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you feel that? It's very strange. We actually have to repeat a couple of notes, and then with the addition of that grouping of 2, it's very interesting where everything falls on the beat. It feels very awkward at first, but that's a good thing because it feels so awkward because we're picking and choosing all these different spots in the measure that we're probably not comfortable accenting, right? So this is really going to force you to confront your flexibility in 4/4. So here's how I suggest doing it. I've got a whole bunch of groupings for you on the sheet this week that you can experiment with. This one, you may just have to get used to the rhythm first before you add any notes to it. You may want to sit there with this drum backing track and just count the groupings, right? So if you start doing this with a scale and you're like, whoa, this is way over my head, well, take a step back, remove part of the equation, and just see if you can count. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. You have to kind of be able to do that first before you worry about doing much else, okay? So don't be like, oh, geez, I'm never going to get this. Well, like I said, remove something from the equation, which is probably going to be the notes at first. All right, so let's explore 2 more possibilities with this grouping before we leave you. And, I've got a whole bunch on the sheet for you to practice this week. But what about this one? So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3. 1 and 2. 1 and 2, 3. 1 and 2. 1 and 2, 3. 1 and 2. What would that sound like if we applied it to a scale? 2, 3, 4. Kind of heavy, isn't it? Yeah? So let's try one more today. So what if we did this one? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and, right? So the cool part is the accents always fall on the same part of the bar. You'll get used to it. We're just changing the rhythm that we're using within those groupings, intra grouping, right? But it's so good for you. So let's try that one as applied to the scale. 1, 2, ready, go. Very interesting sound, right? So again, even though the accents are falling in the same place, it's like everything changes as you change how many notes you are putting in each grouping. And it's just so good for you, again, to develop that flexibility, Okay, so what I'm going to give is the new sheet with some possibilities to get you started. And then what you want to do is you want to start getting that grouping down, see what it feels like, where does it fall on the bar, and then you want to start to experiment with how many notes you're putting in each grouping and how that falls with the scale. Remember, you can do the scales ascending, descending, combination of both. The possibilities are kind of endless here, and that's a good thing. We want a ton of possibilities because this is something we could work on for literally ever, right? And that's the thing about most of these concepts. It's like you think about the fact that, okay, I'm going to do a grouping of 3 and a grouping of 2, and then the world basically opens up to you in terms of how many different ways you can do that. And the deeper you get, the better it will be. You do not need to explore every single possibility all in one go. You can, practice this stuff, do a couple possibilities, come back to it a couple months from now, a year from now. Totally fine. Remember, this stuff is material that you should file away, and it will just be ammo for you to, I don't know what to practice today. Oh, I remember. I was working on playing groupings of 3 and 2. Cool, maybe I should try to do that again and do it with a different scale or do it with a different grouping. This is stuff that I just come back to all the time. I don't care how many years I've been practicing this music. It's simple stuff like this that you come back to and try to think of in a different way that just continues to help you grow. So if you want to support the show and get all of these supporting materials, I'll give you that drum track at a couple different tempos. I'll give you the new sheets so that you can just start diving in and working on this stuff right away. You can hop on over to our Patreon. You can go to patreon.com and search for the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, or you can go to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, and you'll find some links to the Patreon. This is a listener-supported show, so if you appreciate what we're doing here, we'd really appreciate that small dollar support. And again, you get a ton in return for that. So patreon.com, search for the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, or go to 10minutejazzlesson.com and click on one of the Patreon banners, and you can find out all the information, all the perks for the different levels. And we really, really appreciate your support. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week with another episode on this topic. Bye.